YouTube Buzzik in the Goat House is back with our Monday recap here after week 9. Do this video every Monday. We have weekly picks Tuesday nights, power rankings on Tuesday, score predictions Wednesday, and a lot more. We'll kind of be doing some halfway through the season type videos this week, maybe some player rankings and mid-season playoff predictions, things like that. So join us. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Any link you're looking for, Picks League, sponsors, pinned in the comments, code GOAT. On those sponsor sites there. Thursday game, real quick. Texans came out firing. It came out looking pretty good in this game. Dameon Pierce had a really strong game. Mills had some solid moments. The interception can't happen. It felt like the turnover is going to happen at the worst time for the Texans this year, but some good moments from Mills still. But I like the tempo, especially early and when they had their good drives. They were getting on the ball and they were just jamming it down their throats, so maybe that's a weakness for the Eagles, if there is one. So maybe teams kind of use this tape, take a page out of the Texans book here. But the Eagles still, find a way to get it done and get comfortable when doing it. Obviously, solid game from Hurts. They just find a way to get the job done. C.J. Gardner-Johnson with that incredible interception. He's been racking them up this year, so it's been looking like a good pickup. Although I didn't like his tackle attempt early in this game. Was that on Pierce? Angry run by Pierce. You see all these teams surprisingly losing, getting upset, and the Eagles just continue to win. And then it didn't look super pretty in this one. Maybe the Texans showed some things that maybe could be good against the Eagles going forward, but the Eagles at the end of the day just still, outplay their opponent. They find a way to win, continue to win, I should say, and they're consistent when doing it. So, still undefeated. So that's really all I got in that game. Chargers, Falcons, a little bit of a shit show on this one. Falcons probably should have won this game. It was weird because the Falcons in the first quarter, it's like, all right, Falcons are going to win this game, right? Second quarter, the Chargers completely dominate them. And you're like, all right, Chargers are going to win this game, right? Third quarter, the Falcons kind of taking control. The Chargers kind of fight back and find a way to win in the end there. Eckler had a pretty good game. I thought Herbert played well. Some of the throws he makes, I think people aren't noticing it this year. I think he's kind of almost getting ripped. Maybe because we expect him to be maybe the best in football this year or one of the best. And I still think he's up there, though. Some of the throws that he makes in important times to the end of the game, some of the tight window throws, the velocity he puts on the ball, and those out routes, very difficult. Not a lot of quarterbacks can do it. So I thought he was clutch, especially given that play calling's been a little weird and there's no receivers on that team. So factoring that in as well, I think Herbert's been just fine. And then the Falcons don't have much of a passing game. That's really why they lost this game. But then you got Drake London getting stripped up near the goal line by Mack. That can't happen, obviously. Shouldn't be that easy. It's a big play by Mack. They're about to score then, just they couldn't really get anything going in the passing game once again. It's just they're limited to the run game. The good thing is the run game looks really strong. You got Cordero Patterson coming back. He does a pretty good game, looks solid. Gives him a boost. And even with that, Algier has a really good game. You think he would kind of drop off a little bit. I know it's kind of him and Huntley back and forth, but you think they would both kind of drop off with Patterson coming back. But Algier still has a pretty big game, but they still only score 17 points, and they can't find a way to win there. I know they needed to get the pass game going more, so I guess I understand kind of trying to get that going. But the Chargers struggle so much to stop the run. The Falcons, run super well, obviously. Maybe they should have just absolutely kept pounding the ball, especially when they had the lead in the second half of this game, late too. So maybe they should have kind of kept going with that, but I kind of understand it. You do want to try to get the pass game going because it needs to get going. Mariota a little inconsistent in the passing game. He had a bomb to Pitts, and it looked like an overthrow. I actually thought that was on Pitts. It looked like he was starting to tail off his route a little bit too much. Just looked a little wonky. That's the best way for me to explain it. So I think most people would probably put that on Mariota overthrow, but I actually don't think so. Why isn't Pitts as good as we thought he can be? And sometimes it is Mariota. Sometimes he doesn't want to throw it unless the guy's wide open. But Chargers find a way. That last drive was wild. Eckler fumbled. Graham looked like he was going to pick it up, return for a touchdown. Maybe somebody would have caught him, but he would have returned it in the Chargers territory, perhaps. Then he just drops it all on his own. But then you look at the replay, and I thought maybe Eckler was down, but I guess it was pretty close to call, but then Herbert makes a good throw, and they get back in field goal range. Dicker hits that kick, clutch kick for Dicker, the kicker. But the ending was just so wild. It's like, was that a fumble, really? You know, the Falcons should have probably, if it was, the Falcons should have the ball, maybe more, maybe a touchdown, maybe in field goal range. They could have won the game. So it's like whoever lost this game it's kind of a choke, in my opinion. I feel like we keep getting those with these two teams, really. You know, like whoever loses that game based on how it went, it kind of feels like a choke. But yeah, I don't know. It really isn't good football in this game, you know. So I really wasn't thrilled with this game. It was kind of entertaining, but really not thrilled with either of his teams. The Chargers are very beat up. The Falcons are sneaky some weeks, but you know they're contending for the NFC South. Do they look like a team that really should be contending for the division? I don't know about that. So. Yeah, that's my takes for there. Shootout in Chicago, 35-32 Dolphins. Just crazy. Like going into this year, like who would have said that when the Bears play the Dolphins week 9, it's going to be a shootout. Everybody would be like, what the hell is that guy talking about, you know? So absolute shootout here was pretty damn entertaining. Yeah, I mean, the Bears offense continues to impress. They were so disappointed, maybe the worst in football. You know, and the Commanders game it was just a few weeks ago. That Thursday night game, you know, they were the worst in football at that point. And they changed some things up, add a little bit to the playbook, or actually use some of that from the playbook maybe, getting Fields outside more, and they're able to do some damage, move the ball a bit. You know, Fields making some more throws too. You know, he does need to pass. He needs to be better as a passer, obviously, but he racked up some touchdowns. He made some good throws. But ran extremely well. It's actually a record for quarterback rushing yards, and he led the league, obviously, in rushing yards this week. Sometimes he kind of asks to be sacked back there, and players they just can't sack him. He's a very tough guy to tackle, so he was a big-time problem. We saw McDaniel told him to stop it, too, so they knew he was a big-time problem. And he made some clutch throws, so he is getting better as a passer. Just want to see a little bit more of it. And that last play, which was incomplete, that was actually a very difficult throw. I thought that was a good one, too. And then, you know, there was a lot of complaints on, you know, no PI in that Claypool play. That probably should have been. I can understand. You see it from one angle, and it kind of just looks like everyone just kind of made contact. Claypool kind of went back in him. So I can understand where a ref is like, yeah, I don't know if I should call that. Probably not. I can understand it. So I don't think it was like a phantom call or anything like that. But I would have called that, which was pretty big in that game. But Claypool got some catches, too, for the Bears, so that's good to see. But, yeah, all of a sudden they turned into an offensive team. Their defense is really struggling. They did get rid of some guys, but guys that weren't going to be a part of the future, obviously, for that defense. But that could be why it made it worse. It's weird seeing them as an offensive team. But it was a winnable game. They got some – even though the defense has struggled, they got some stops on fourth downs, which the Dolphins probably should have kicked field goals on, which could have ended the game. I know the last one you had to go for it at that given situation. But the Dolphins, you know, continue to – you know, be very explosive on offense. Tua was great for most of this game. He did miss a wide open guy in fourth, and then he had an underthrow to Waddle, which could have been a walk-in touchdown. So he still kind of has those moments where it's like, come on, Tua, you know. But very impressive overall. I loved how explosive this offense is, especially even with the running backs. You know, Mostert and get Wilson going. That was a great pickup. Tyreek Hill continues to be a monster, obviously. But yeah, the defense was really worn out. Fields was really wearing them out. So the Dolphins defense was a little disappointing in this game. I mean, it's pretty bad though, because Fields is a problem. It's tough to tackle, but how do you not have an answer for that? You know, how do you not have anybody outside? Because he was getting out to the pocket. It was kind of free runs. I know those players making bad decisions of getting sucked in, falling for the fakes, like on the bootlegs, you know, so there's some things they definitely got to clean up, you know, if they got to play a running quarterback at another time, you know, and we saw it against Lamar Jackson as well. They, you know, luckily came back and won that game because the Dolphins and their offense very good, but, you know, maybe they got an issue against running quarterbacks, apparently. It sure looks like it, but they find a way to hang on and win this one. The offense has been very entertaining. The Panthers and Bengals. This is a good one for the Bengals. You know, I know it's the Panthers, and it's like, all right, who cares? People probably saying that's the Panthers, but you know, coming off that bad loss, you know, just on Monday Night Football not too long ago here, and then playing against primarily a zone defense, which the Bengals haven't been good against yet this year, and going out and score 42 and get your running back involved finally. You know, mixing an insane game, absolutely insane. all the way around. So it was good to see that. It was good to see the Bengals do that, but it just shows how weird it is because they just got absolutely dominated on Monday Night Football, and then the Panthers, who are playing better football here, you go and you just dominate them. So it's just weird how like teams are just so much different, every week, and every week is different in the NFL always. Anything can happen, but this year especially, I think it's been crazy. But this game, I don't have much on this game. It was kind of over from the start. The Panthers really couldn't have like Foreman be a factor because they had to pass the ball quite a bit because they were down so much so early. The Bengals just gave them so much problems, and it had to be a mixing game. It had to be, but it probably wasn't much of a game plan for the Panthers because it hasn't been for the Bengals. The mixing hasn't really been the game. They haven't really been able to get them going. They're a little more unpredictable with it as well. And that could help, what they put on film in this game, getting mixed and going, things like that, could help going forward perhaps. But, yeah, not a whole lot in this game. A dominant win for the Bengals, which they needed. But can they do it again in the big games? Can they do it against the better teams here in the crucial games? Can they do it? We'll see going forward. Packers-Lions, a very surprising one here, obviously, with the Packers been disappointing, so I guess it's not surprising the Lions won. It's more so that the Packers only scored 9, and that Aaron Rodgers had maybe the worst game of his career. That's really what it came down to because both offenses were pretty disappointing. The Lions got the job done, obviously, but I expected the Lions to do a lot more offensively in this game than they did, and they didn't, but they won. And their defense has been the worst in football, but the defense won them the game. They clutched up. They made plays in the red zone, the end zone specifically, made plays, some really good pass deflections. They just continue to make plays in clutch situations. So they'll give up some yards. They'll give up some big plays still, but a heck of a job by the Lions defense, especially when no one really expected it. I don't think anybody expected it. So against one of the great quarterbacks of all time too. But yeah, Packers, they had a lot of injuries throughout this game too. So, it's just got to be even more brutal for them, now looking at waking up today and see all these injuries, and after they're on a 5-game losing streak, no one could have predicted that. But yeah, this was more Rodgers is really being off in this game because he's been blaming a lot of the receivers lately, and this game was more on him. Just routine throws sometimes for him, usually that he makes, and just a little short or a lot of short and just bad decisions on where to throw the ball. It's just very weird to see, but they moved down the field. They just couldn't get in the end. So that's really I don't have a whole lot more to this game. It's just the Packers were able to move it. Maybe not as much as we expected. I thought this was kind of a breakout game for their offense. But they were able to move it enough. And then as soon as they get in the red zone or in that area, just mistakes. That's really what it was. There's an execution problem. And that was the difference between them winning or losing. So, and again, the Lions made plays. Give them credit. They made plays. They deserve credit, especially that defense where wasn't expected, but it was it did kind of feel like the Packers beat the Packers a little bit in this game, even though the Lions played well enough to win. They outplayed their opponent, but it did feel like maybe Rodgers beat Rodgers in this game. It kind of felt like that a little bit. So it just, when you think it can't get any worse or any more disappointing for the Packers, it does. But the Lions, it was a much needed win. They needed that so bad. Packers did too, and they couldn't pull it up. Now the Lions play the Bears, and that could be for second in the division. And that's a game that can go either way. I'm expecting a shootout Lions-Bears. Packers got to deal with the Cowboys, maybe the best defense football off a bye. So it's just, that'd be something that would happen this year, though. This year's been so weird that the Packers will all of a sudden have a ridiculous offense against the Cowboys. It wouldn't make any sense at all, but that's something that would happen. Colts and Patriots. Yeah, how about the news this morning? Frank Reich fired, and then they make Jeff Saturday the interim coach, which is wild. All the guys they have on the staff, John Fox, head coach experience, Gus Bradley, is there, obviously been a coach for a long time. And it's Saturday, Irsay kind of trusting his guy, his former guy there. So we'll see how that is. I guess why not in a way, but it just kind of feels like tank time for the Colts. Maybe it has been. Maybe it already has been putting Ellinger in because I think Matt Ryan does a lot better in this game. Not that he wins the game. The Patriots presented some serious problems for any quarterback that'd be in because the pass rush they got. And Belichick knows how to throw off inexperienced quarterbacks that are in a tough situation, but that's kind of makes the Bears game extremely surprising. What happened a couple weeks ago, but Fields with his legs, off topic, with his legs maybe caused a different problem, but that's kind of what Belichick and the Patriots do, and that kind of was presented in the game like this. But yeah, I was saying the Colts might have been, they're tanking now, but they might have been tanking, putting Ellinger in, and because they're probably sick of Irsay's probably sick of just trying out this other quarterback that another team doesn't want because it's not working for the Colts. We need to finally find our next Andrew Luck, finally find that quarterback of the future that's going to stick with us here. So maybe they're at this point hoping, they're not going to lose games on purpose, but they're kind of in that situation where they may, and I think they're good with that. They may lose games, not on purpose, but, and then they get a top pick perhaps, and they finally get that quarterback. So, yeah, there's not much going in this game. And the Patriots didn't have a whole lot of offense for a bit of this game. They did get some things going, though. Stevenson, solid game. He had that one-handed catch. So they made enough plays there. Their defense was ridiculous. They just presented some problems. The pass rusher, Matthew John, leading the NFL in sacks. He was a monster in this game. They got Uche going in this game. So, this was more of a beatdown than I thought it would be. The Colts just could not do anything. It took them forever to even get a first down, to complete a pass first, to actually complete a pass, and it was like a 3rd and 18 when they just dumped it off, maybe just to get one, just to get some yards, and then it took them forever to get a first down too, so that was wild. So really good outing for the Patriots. Still, worry about the offense a little bit, maybe against teams that they have to keep up with, but overall, good outing. And the Colts, its season feels over at this point. The Jags got a good win, which we'll talk to them, but I feel like the Titans going to run away with that division, which we kind of felt like the last few weeks. Bills and Jets, a shocking one here. The Jets continue to pull off, and you thought maybe they're going to go back down to earth after last week, or mainly after, because they followed the Patriots last week, a sloppy game, and then after those injuries, no more Breece Hall, and other players, but they find a way to beat the Bills, who a lot of people consider the top team in football, the team to beat, maybe perhaps. Some people, the Eagles perhaps, but the Jets find a way. The Jets play such good defense, it's ridiculous. They confused Josh Allen in this game. This reminded me a little bit of earlier Josh Allen. Even a couple years ago. It's actually a very random game, but it reminded me of a Bills Josh Allen game, that COVID game actually, where it got pushed back. I think it was a Tuesday when they played the Titans. The Titans were showing some disguised coverages, some trap coverages, I should say, and it was really confusing Josh Allen. He wasn't reading the coverages right. He wasn't seeing the defense. There was other games. That's just one that comes to mind, which I didn't really expect it from Josh Allen at that point. That's kind of the point where he was getting better, but you kind of could see there's some things that he's still kind of learn to get better at. And I kind of saw it in this game again, where the Jets defense just really confused them. He couldn't read these coverages. A lot of time they would kind of show man, they would be in zone, and then he would kind of take his eye off the defender because he kind of already determined on which coverage they're in, and he would try to hit. We really saw it that last interception with Sauce was just sitting there. He just somehow didn't see him, but I think it was just more so he misread the coverage. So we saw that in a bit this game, so there are some teams the defenses that might be able to give them some problems, and could that be a problem in the playoffs? If they're trying to get to the Super Bowl, if they get there, could it be a problem? Luckily, if the Chiefs, I don't think present that type of defense, even though it's not a bad defense, but the Jets gave some problems there. But a big thing was no Matt Milano. Not having Matt Milano, who I think has been the best linebacker in football this year, it showed tremendously in this game. The Jets took advantage of that. The Jets ran the ball super effectively. Micah Carter, James Robinson, I think they averaged over 5 yards a carry. So that's what happened. I know the Jets got the turnovers, and those were massive, but the Jets controlled the time of possession. Therefore, they controlled the game there. So that was absolutely massive for them, and just being able to run the ball. And Wilson made some throws here and there, obviously, but just a great job managing the time of possession, being able to run the ball, and how well called that defense is to play against an elite quarterback like Josh Allen was great. Something I thought of this morning, actually, because there's some bad things with the Bills here, bad things from Josh Allen, and at the end of last night, I'm like, man, can this team actually win a Super Bowl? I'm really thinking that. What if Milano's out in a big game, like they're in trouble. I can think of that. And then I wake up this morning and it's some of the same things. Like it's not good, but you do remember that the Bills kind of had this stretch. I think the last 2 seasons they kind of had this stretch at some point, and it's not a stretch right now. It's just one game, but they kind of had a stretch where they didn't really play the best ball. You remember the Jags game last year, things like that. And you get in the playoffs and you think, yeah, the Bills, is that going to show up in the playoffs? And, they're playing the Patriots, and then they're got experience with the Bills go and play their best type of football and they demolish them. So could it be something similar? Is it just one game, kind of like the Jags game last year? So you don't want to panic, or definitely not panic or anything right now. But there are some things, where maybe you can disguise some coverages and that could cause some problems. If Matt Milano's not in there, maybe you got some problems. So there are some things like that. Maybe you do worry about a little bit at least, but that's a massive win for the Jets. Absolutely massive. And the Bills had their 2 losses. They're Dolphins and Jets right now, so that doesn't look great. But, they're still a very, very tough team going forward. But, is there a team right now like that's the team that's winning the Super Bowl? There really isn't that team. The Eagles are the best team right now. And there's probably a lot of people out there that would still say the Chiefs or the Bills. I'm just kind of guessing what most of the population would say. But it's a little more up in the air maybe right now, or maybe where people are going to decide actually believe more in the Eagles now. We'll see. That's a good one for the Jets. Vikings and Commanders. The Vikings continue to find ways. They play so well at the end of games to close out games or take the games. I was saying it weeks ago. This is a team that this is an offense that when they absolutely need to score, like when they absolutely have to score, they score. Like they find ways to get points. And that is my favorite thing against the Vikings. Like every week, I've been saying this for weeks and weeks. It hasn't really been pretty. There's some things where I don't really like. Sometimes you question, are they as good as their records? But there's their record kind of in the past. But I kept saying that when they absolutely have to score at the end of games, they play their best and they go and score. And I love they might do it better than anyone in football. You think of teams like the Bills and the Chiefs, like when they actually have to go score that last drive or whatever it is. They pull it off, and they pull it off in a good way where they drain the clock, the rest of the clock as well, or no matter how much time's left. The Vikings have done it more than anyone this year, and they do it again. This wasn't the best game for the most part. Like the Commanders, credit to the Commanders' defense. We kept saying it the last few weeks where they're getting better. Like they're for sure getting better. How much better, though? Let's see a test against the Vikings, a good offense here. And the Commanders played very, very well defensively in this game, so I do like where they're... And the Vikings kind of figured something out in the end. They were able to move the ball a bit. But I still like where the Commanders' defense is really heading. And they have Chase Young coming back still, so that's great. The Vikings, again, a little slow for a chunk of this game. And credit to the Vikings defense, who I haven't really loved this year, but they're starting to add in some more things, some different looks, and they're playing better as well. They played a good game here. Harrison Smith keeps getting interceptions. They keep making clutch plays. But again, the game was kind of slow. This is one of the more impressive wins for the Vikings. You'd think like they didn't score a whole lot, and they played the Commanders, and they barely won. This is actually one of the more impressive ones because things just weren't going their way in this game. Even the other games, like I thought things were kind of going their way and they would find a way to win. They should. Things weren't really going their way in this game. Like the Commanders' defense was having a hell of a game. They had them figured out. This is the first time like Cousins was pressured like all game. They just couldn't get much going. And then if you saw it, the Commanders had that wild play. Heineke just threw it into triple coverage, like way up in the air. Looked like a punt return. Cameron Bynum, who's got his hands on the ball a couple times this year, was waiting for the ball, and the ref came and took him out. Wild play if you didn't see it. It's on Twitter. So the turn of events in that play, like it was going to be an interception, like free one. And instead of that, it ended up being a touchdown because he caught it and rolled in the end zone. I mean, the Vikings defense couldn't believe what happened. So just the swing there, like interception, touchdown. And it just felt like at that point that the Vikings lost all momentum. It's tough to come back from like a wonky play like that kind of sucks the life out. It gives the other team the lead. You see the momentum really shifted. And nothing was going the Vikings' way. So for them to come back and close it out at the end on both sides of the ball, I thought that was very, very impressive. I like that T.J. Hockenson got going, 9 catches, and they were feeding him so much that I actually saw a couple plays where they doubled Hockenson. That Cook touchdown, which was a great throw, great catch, they doubled Hockenson on that play. So that's big time for them. So it looks like the Vikings just really figured something out in the second half of this game or late in this game. So I actually thought that was one of the more impressive games, even though it's Washington, who was on a win streak in D.C. Just had to find a way. Things weren't going your way. So I actually thought that was one of my favorite wins for the Vikings this year. Commanders, again, I like where their defense is at. Heineke had that bad interception, obviously. Things were kind of going their way throughout this game, though. So this is definitely one you got to close out. This is definitely one you gotta find a way to close out. I know it's a tough team they're playing, a team that's been good, but I like the defense. So they were getting the people haven't really been. We're used to the Vikings, Kirk Cousins being pressured constantly. It's kind of felt like it in the past, but this year he's been kept clean, pretty damn clean, and the Commanders were able to get some good pressure, especially interior. Deron Payne was collapsing the pocket pretty well. So the defense overall, I know they maybe shut down a little bit at the end, but the offense wasn't helping them a whole lot. But, another win for the Vikings, the only one-loss team in football, and their one loss is a team that's the only undefeated team in football. So I think that means something there. Raiders and Jags, I can't believe the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders are blowing leads, and McDaniels is kind of known for blowing it as well. The Jags are one of the last teams. I don't think the Jags are anywhere near, like, the talent-wise and how they play, anywhere near the worst team in football. But in terms of if I had to rank teams that would be capable of coming back, I'd probably put them towards the very bottom. I don't know. The Jags usually blow games they should win, so how am I going to trust them to come back, especially down, 17? And the Raiders had 20 early, too, and they pulled it off. I mean, they looked really good. They were holding the ball a long time on those drives as well. Lawrence was being smart with it. Etienne has been fantastic. How about Travis Etienne? He's been fantastic. Love what I'm seeing from him. And the defense was getting the ball back. They figured something out in the second half. The adjustments. And the Jags defense has been pretty good this year. It's been pretty good. But the Raiders presented some problems early, so it's like, Jags defense, it's been good. What is this, though? There's some kind of problem with that Raider, the way they run things on offense that they're not good against, but they adjusted. They figured something out, on defense. And again, I love the way that I'm actually curious. I think I saw it, but I forgot already, trying to remember the time of possession of every game. But I'm curious the time of possession. Jags won that. They had 32 minutes and 25 seconds, over 27 minutes of the Raiders. So, and they were probably getting crushed at one point. Well, the Raiders had their scores were on these massive plays. I guess it was just blown coverages. So it just stopped blowing these coverages. Let's figure something out here. So those were the good adjustments there for the Jags because Adams was leaking out wide open. But I really liked what they did in the second half of this game. And the Jags could be a good team. I thought week one, either they outplayed the Commanders, they should have won that game. They didn't. That's a problem. But the Giants, they definitely outplayed. If you watch that game, they should have beat the Giants. They blew that one. And the Broncos last week, too. And there's another one in there, I'm pretty sure, as well. The Colts. They 100% outplayed the Colts the whole time, pretty much the whole time. So, you could sit here and say the Jags should have more wins. It's kind of what their identity is, so I don't know if I can say that. They kind of blow the games. But the point is they are good enough to outplay teams. They're good enough to do this, apparently. So they could be a good team. Can they put it together and figure it out? So that's the mission there, obviously. But that's a massive one. And that's one that they're on a losing streak, too. That's one that can turn around the season, get you some momentum. Raiders, I don't know how you blow that one. I'm already, it's already done with McDaniels. I think it should be. I think it's at this point and I actually thought he could be a good coach because I think last time around and they weren't choosing the right players, and I think he was with the Broncos. I think he was actually heavily involved picking the players too. So I thought that was part of the problem, but it kind of showed me that it just didn't work there. But I thought new start, more learning experience with the Patriots. They got really good weapons with the Raiders. I think they got a bright future. I think it could work, But I'm already at the point where it's like, I think coaches are one of those things where people don't want to agree, but to me it's facts. You can tell pretty early. If it's the guy or not. A coach isn't really going to, all of a sudden McDaniels isn't going to get a lot better and turn things around. They can win games, of course. They can have good seasons if he's the coach, but, is he going to get the job done? Can he consistently, is he going to be enough to win a Super Bowl, where the Raiders want to be? This is a game you cannot let get away. Big factor here, big thing here. Josh Jacobs has been running like an absolute monster this year, and he was, 17 for... It wasn't anything ridiculous. I know it was 17 carries, 17 for 67. So it's a 3.9 average. It's pretty solid. It's nothing ridiculous, but you are winning for a majority of this game. You have a big lead. How are you not running Josh Jacobs, winning the time of possession. That's the biggest thing. If you're up like that, you can dominate the time of possession very easily. You can keep hold of that time of possession. You can run the clock, have the team make the team have less time to come back. And you have a great running game. You have a good running back. And McDaniels is known for his kind of with the Patriots, especially with his running game, with pounding the football, especially in these situations. So it was very odd that he went away from the run and they're insisting on. I think it was because Adams was getting so wide open. That's one thing. If the passing game is just working so well, where Carr's hitting this guy, they're working down the field, they're scoring so easily because of it. So you don't want to go away from what's working, right? But their touchdowns were just off Adams' blown coverages, leaking out wide open. I understand trying to go back to that here and there, but they were just kind of insisting on it. So it just kind of just stayed the same, zero adjustments. That's kind of what happened in this game. And then you kind of put that together. It makes so much sense. Like, why do the McDaniels historically blow these leads? Why are the Raiders doing it this year? That's why, because there's no adjustments. He's kind of staying the course. Like, this is going to work. It worked once. We're going to keep insisting on working and not going on what you should do or the adjustments you should make while the other team adjusts. So it makes a lot of sense. Like, if you look at this game specifically, what happened, like I explained, and you look at why it keeps happening, it's exactly why. It makes too much sense. So it's a problem. The Raiders shouldn't be this bad, but they're bad. Should have ran Jacobs more. They would have won the game. So that's a good one for the Jags. So their momentum that they needed. Seahawks and Cardinals. Seahawks are a good football team. We say it. They've been looking like it every week, and they're all these teams that can't stay consistent right now. Even some teams are winning. They don't look that great on the field. Like the Seahawks look like a really good football team. The defense continues to get better. They continue to make big plays. And that was kind of the worry with the team. They continue to make big time plays, and then the offense. I talked about with the Vikings. The Vikings, like I said, what I like about the Vikings, when they absolutely have to score, they put a really good drive together and they go do it. I see that from the Seahawks as well. We saw kind of just that unfortunate play. Zaven Collins made a really good play, jumped up and took that ball from Geno and then returned it for 6. Seahawks, the offense at that point hasn't really been super explosive. Like, it's been all right. But what do they go down? They go down and do. They put a great drive together and go down there and score because they absolutely have to. We got to answer back after that mistake. That's not us. We got to go retake this game, and they go and do it. They do it at the end to kind of put the game away while running some clock, while using Kenneth Walker, who's been awesome for them too. But Geno Smith's been awesome. These receivers, obviously. Then they had a questionable game against the Giants, maybe with some of the drops. But, this team's been fun. This team's been very fun because they have the defense is getting better, so they make plays. So they have defense, they have running game, they have passing games, they have that kind of that clutch. They score when they absolutely need to. So, and they're staying consistent right now. While there's a lot of teams that aren't, there's a lot of teams that are putting some bad football out there. So I really like what I see from the Seahawks right now. Really, really like it. And the Cardinals, they've been disappointing, obviously. Really, I look at this game, and the Murray fumble was big. Right before that, Robbie Anderson dropped a brutal drop. But Murray escaped on 4th down. It was a questionable one to go for as well. I know they want to spark. They want to get something going. It ended up working out in a way. It ended up being kind of the right choice because Murray escaped. It was free big-time yards, and he continues to run with the ball. Very loose, one hand, knocked out, play made by the Seahawks. But that, I don't think they would have won even if they, scored. If he didn't fumble, they scored in that drive. But that was costly. But in a game like this, in the past games, I know that was a costly moment, and that can't happen. I think people would say moments like that probably what lost you the game. I think there's been moments like that in the other games they've lost, where that's why they lost. This one, I just think the Seahawks just completely outplayed them. I think the Seahawks were just a better team in this one, and the Cardinals were trying to make plays, and they couldn't make as much as the Seahawks. That's kind of what I saw there. So it just seemed like the Seahawks were a lot better football team here. But yeah, that's all I got on that. I'm just impressed with the Seahawks and the Cardinals. The Cardinals have the ability to be good still, but they just can't put it together. They can't put a full game together. It's a bit of a mess. Still have snap situations. They still just make them. They make a lot of crucial mistakes and bad moments. Crucial moments, I should say. Not a bad mistakes and crucial. I said it backwards. So it's just and that could be a coaching. I mean, it's. And a lot of people want Kingsbury fired, and there are a lot of times where people blame him where I actually think it's more Murray or more, maybe the offensive line. But, I think things aren't clicking. Things aren't working. The team doesn't look as prepared as they should be sometimes. They make mistakes, stupid mistakes in crucial moments, so maybe they're not well disciplined. So it kind of does look like maybe it's starting to build up too much where it's kind of maybe that time where they need a new face. The problem is, which nobody really realizes, I feel like I'm the only one explaining it every week, but the issue is, well, first off, they just extend him in the offseason, and there's a reason for that. The issue is they run such a specific type of offense. It's really a college offense fit perfectly for Kyler Murray, which how many coaches out there are going to run that? In the NFL, I am not finding any. I'm not really finding any here that really want to run that, will run that, have familiarity, have a background in that. You kind of got to dive into college football, and there are coaches out there better than Kingsbury. I mean, Lincoln Riley comes up a lot. With the Oklahoma, Kyler Murray background, he's such a good coach, but he's always wanted to stay in college. He hasn't made out there in USC right now. They get paid tons of money. It's because they like it in college, obviously. So, my point is there are not too many options out there that are going to run the Kyler Murray offense. People do not realize that Kingsbury is there so Kyler Murray could work. Like, people don't realize that. So, because if you're going to run your traditional offense, I think there's going to be a lot more of the not getting the ball over the offensive line, tip balls at the line, which we see a bit of, but because it's the spread offense that they have, they're able to get, distribute it out in different, with there's a lot more space, obviously, as well. So they got to find the right guy, and that's why they're going to be stubborn with Kingsbury. It actually makes sense, and people do not. I feel like I'm the only one explaining that, which has got to be people out there that know it. Obviously, it's common sense if you know the game, if you know, offenses and Kyler Murray's type of game, and it's just, that's the issue. They're kind of stuck. They're kind of in a mess right now. So, but they should be playing a lot better football than they're playing. Rams Buccaneers, I can't believe the Rams lost this game. The Rams controlled this game for 3 quarters, and even though it was kind of close, still it felt like they were outplaying them by more than what the score showed. They were playing better everywhere. I mean, they weren't protecting Stafford well, but they actually had explosive plays. Henderson was running pretty well. You had some good runs. The defense was making big plays. They were just, they have a big exploit. Like Henderson breaks a run. But they end up only getting a field goal. And then Cooper Kupp and he actually ends up getting a touchdown, the one touchdown. But he has another explosive play. They end up only getting a field goal. So that was an issue there. But they had more than the Bucs for 3 quarters in this game. The fourth quarter, the Bucs completely dominated. But how much they dominated? I mean, they dominated it because the Rams had like negative yards for most of it, and couldn't do anything. And they were giving the Bucs chances, and the Bucs still, they had 9 points throughout pretty much. So I don't know if they dominated a whole lot, but it was more the Rams were just really, really bad in the fourth quarter. And the Bucs actually had a shot to take the lead, which I couldn't believe it at that point, just because based off the Rams just outplaying them for 3 quarters. And Scotty Miller has a brutal touchdown drop. I don't know what the hell he was doing. It was a good route. But I guess, jumping I don't love there. Just kind of go and catch the ball because you're so wide open. But you do want it. DB's closing in. You want to go attack it and catch it. Sure, but catch it like this, jumping and body catch, hands facing the right. It's middle school level mistakes. So that's kind of what Brady's been dealing with. Godwin had a drop. Mike Evans had a drop at one point. I don't know what's happening there. But so then you think the game's over, but no, 40 seconds left. And the Rams defense is good. It's a good defense. They've been playing great all game as well, but they're kind of in that prevent, which just don't let them get in the end zone. But they let them get so close, so easy that it was, it's just so simple for, it's not super simple, but it's, they're going to have an opportunity to score, a good opportunity, and they go and do that. They draw up a good play, high percentage play there, and they pull it off. It's just, exactly what the Bucs needed. Brady was hyped after that game, kind of just put the team on his back at the end there. So it's exactly what they needed going to play a good Seahawks team in Germany next week. Exactly what the Bucs needed. They had that. They had to have that. They got it. They got the only touchdown they scored in the game, though, and it's at the very last second to win the game. It's like, how do the Rams lose that game? Things are going your way. You held them from not scoring a touchdown to the end. You're winning. You're dominating. It's maybe not dominating, but you're completely outplaying your opponent for 3 quarters. You got to win this game, but it's just, there's so many things that are bad right now. The offensive line's awful. They can't protect Stafford. Stafford can't move. He's bad too. He's the only time it's anything good. It's like where's Cooper Kupp? Where is he? I'm gonna launch at the Kupp. So McVay's awful. McVay's awful right now. I mean, the play calling's brutal. I know it's very difficult to call plays when you're limited because your offensive line can't block, your quarterback's can't do much. It's very difficult, but I think you're making it harder. Like, there's really no, I keep saying it, there's no game plan for the run game. When he's not, I'm not in the room when they're game planning or watching film during the week, but I feel like they're never coming in like, we're going to run the ball here. This is where we're going to run the ball. This is where we're going to attack. We're going to jam it down their throat. This is where we're going to control the clock. When we, this situation, this is where we got to check to a run. I feel like there's none of that going on. I don't know. That's just kind of the feeling I've been getting and still get. Henderson was running pretty damn well, and you were insisting on not running when you had to lead. But then for a stretch, they went from only running on first down. All right, we get the ball, we're going to run on first, and then we're going to throw, and we're going to get pressured. And then, hey, we get the ball back. We're going to run on first. We're going to throw on second and third again. It got really predictable. It's just brutal. I mean, McVay looks like one of the worst play callers in football right now, which is mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing, fresh off the Super Bowl. We know he's a good coach. We know he's capable of. So they got everything's bad for them right now. Quarterback's bad. Offensive line's bad. I mean, the defense was good most of the game, but I don't know what the hell that was at the end of the game against an offense that can't do anything, and the play calling and the game plan's bad. It's just it's just all on Cooper Kupp. Well, send Cooper Kupp out there, let him run wild. Phenomenal player. It's just Cooper Kupp his back's got to be killing him because he's got to carry this team so much. It's ridiculous, and it's a receiver. There's only so much a receiver could carry, I guess, control in a game, I should say. So I don't know. If the Rams can't pull that game off, I don't know. That's crazy. We're talking about the defending Super Bowl champions. Like, if they can't pull that game off, I don't know what games they can pull off. I don't know. Like, they play the Cardinals this week, and they're a disaster as well. But I'm not sitting there with the Cardinals saying, like, if they can't pull that game off, I don't know what games they're going to pull off. Like, I'm saying that about the Rams. So, like, how are the Rams going to beat the Cardinals? Like, that's kind of, I don't know. It's wild. Exactly what the Bucs needed, though. And then Monday Night Football end up being a tough one. I mean, one quarterback throwing the ball how many times? 50-plus times and throwing for 400-something yards. And that's a great day for Mahomes. Mahomes was clutch. And when he gets the ball that many times and you allow him to go make a play to go win the game, he's going to win the game. So that's Mahomes there. But it's a little misleading to see all those yards. The Titans, because it makes look like the Titans defense wasn't good, but it was outstanding in this game. This is a very, very, very good defense. I keep saying it. It's very good defense. They stop the run very well. They make plays. They give a bunch of different types of coverages. They kind of throw off the quarterback as much as they can there. But Titans defense definitely did their part. They were winning most of this game. There's just not a whole lot you can do. I mean, one quarterback threw it how many times, and the other quarterback threw it very little times. And Malik Willis is not ready. See a lot of panic in his game. He can run, but Derrick Henry has been their offense and was their offense in a game like this. There's not a lot to go over in this game. It's just pretty plain and simple. Titans defense did their part. They just didn't have enough passing game on offense. They just didn't have enough. They didn't, and Mahomes had enough. Obviously, he was very clutch, especially with his legs. At 3rd and 17. When they had to go tie the game and get a 2-point conversion, but at 3rd and 17, and he ran for it. That was the play of the game. So just a magician. Mahomes the magician. And they get that 2-point conversion. Obviously, there was a questionable Titans player got his helmet ripped off, and then the Titans got called for a flag, at the end, regulation there. Towards the end of regulation there where the Chiefs were tying it up. So that was questionable as well. But, yeah, I thought Henry had a good game. It's just that's what it was, though. The Titans just didn't have enough offensively because their passing game, and the Chiefs did when they had to make a play. They did. But again, I love the Titans' defense. Jeffrey Simmons is an animal. Yeah, the Chiefs are able to clutch it up there and go win in overtime. And we got a field goal at the end. The Titans held them to a field goal too, and then. But it's just not enough when you absolutely had to go throw the ball, which it's going to come to time. They're winning most of the game because those are the parts of the game where you're able to, hide it a little bit. But when it comes down to where you actually have to make a play in the passing game through the air, I should say, it's just very difficult for them to do it. Malik Willis isn't ready. If they had Tannehill, they'd probably win this game. Tannehill hasn't been doing a whole lot, but I think they probably win this game. So even though it's a loss for the Titans, you do kind of feel pretty good. But they do need more offense. So the receivers they're putting out there, It's just they're relying too much on Derrick Henry. So even though Tannehill wasn't out there, it's still kind of a negative. It's still kind of a negative there, but they look like they're pretty comfy, even though coming off a loss in the AFC South. The Chiefs, much needed win there. Well, I shouldn't say much needed, but yeah, to keep going here, stay at top of the AFC. And they get the job done. Very clutch at the end. So that wraps up my recap for this week. We're back every Monday with this. We got weekly coverage of the NFL, picks, power rankings, a lot more. We'll have some halfway through the season videos this week. Maybe start working on a mock draft as well pretty soon. An updated one. If I have the time, maybe today. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.